Hello, I'm Dr. Basil Considine. I'm here from the ACU Online Writing Center, and today we're going to talk about writing about gray literature, specifically gray literature related to federal initiatives. Now, if you are new to the Writing Center, we work with students here at the Online Writing Center, as opposed to the Writing Center in the Abilene campus. In the Online Writing Center, we work with students in just about every online program at ACU, and we do this through a number of channels. One is through webinars such as this. Another is through appointments that you can make with us to get feedback on a draft. Third is by being available as a place to ask questions via email. And also through all the different resources that we've developed and continue to produce and add to the Online Writing Center website. Let's talk about each in turn. So we offer new webinars every semester, and we also maintain very in-depth archive of all the webinars that we've offered. So if you ever see one that you want to catch but you miss it, don't worry, we'll have that recorded and uploaded to the website, normally within 24 hours. Now, if you are looking for just getting a quick question answered, you can of course come to one of our webinars and ask in the chat, and we're happy to field those there. But you can also write those out and send us an email. And if it's a question that's related to an assignment submission or a draft that you're working on, you can schedule an appointment and include any questions that you like in that appointment notes. So let's talk about the appointments. There are two main types: asynchronous, meaning not in real time, and real time, which would be either phone or Zoom in this case. So an asynchronous appointment, you sign up for a spot in our schedule. By the time that spot rolls around, you upload a copy of your draft and any special instructions, requests, etc. For example, if you have a 10-page paper and you say, well, I'm still working on pages 9 and 10, please don't work on those right now. Could you give me feedback on pages 1 through 8, for example? Certainly happy to accommodate something like that. It's a very reasonable request. And one of the virtues of the asynchronous appointments is that you have a deadline by which to get things in, and we all work better with deadlines, but you also have the ability to go to bed. So I have some students who regularly will sign up for a 11:30 p.m. slot with me. Now, they're not awake waiting for me at that point. They turn in their draft, they go to bed, knowing that within 24 hours, they'll get an email from me that has feedback on their draft. So there's a certain flexibility in that. Now, you might also have a lot of questions that you want to ask in a back and forth fashion. Nothing wrong with that. If that is the case, you might be more interested in a phone or Zoom appointment. Some people focus better if they can just ask their questions and not have the visual element, in which case phone will be great. Other people really like to see everything demonstrated or modeled, in which case Zoom is a great way of giving that when you can't be physically in the same room. I should say that in both of these cases, although we do have people ask sometimes, can we come into the Dallas offices and meet with you? Not dealing with the rush hour traffic is a huge boost, and so we're able to work with many students who would not otherwise be able to get to campus through these online appointments. All right. With that said, let's go ahead and talk about one of those elements I mentioned, the webinar guide. So on our main Writing Webinars page, if you scroll down, you'll see this tabbed guide. And in that tabbed guide, you'll see the initials for different programs, like HCAD, Healthcare Administration. If you click on that, it will bring up all the courses that we have webinar tie-ins for. Now, there are many webinars on topics that apply to many different courses and assignment types in general. But if we have something that specifically ties into one of your courses in that, we try and go ahead and label those so you can see exactly what's available. Another thing on the website, we have a APA course paper template that you'll see me referring to later. And also links to our YouTube channel in case it's more convenient, easier for you to access our webinar videos through there, and of course the blog. Alright, so we have 4 main objectives today. First is to develop an understanding of gray literature. And then from that general understanding, we'll focus in on some key types of gray literature, including, as you might guess from the title of this webinar, gray literature related to federal initiatives. Then we'll take a look at HCAD 241's Week 5 Assignment 1. That is the Population and Community Healthcare Needs Assignment. And we'll finish with talking about how to begin the drafting and outlining process. Let's dive in. So, what is gray literature? Well, gray literature is published material, meaning it's something that people can retrieve, not something that exists only, say, in my private email inbox or something like that. It is published material that falls outside of the quote-unquote traditional stream of commercial publications, books that you just go and buy in the store or order from a publisher, and also separate from the academic or scholarly research that comes sometimes through that and also through university presses and journals and things like that. So gray literature is generally produced by an organization without a formal peer review process. And here, formal peer review process, I mean in the same way that a peer-reviewed journal does. Not at all saying that it's of poor quality. Many groups that publish gray literature have very high standards and do not only blind testing, then peer review, but other measures. But it's not coming from an independent body in the same way that a peer-reviewed journal, we'll say peer-reviewed journals aspire to. So some examples of gray literature. Organizational research reports. I was working with a colleague on one of these just today, actually, where they're presenting the preliminary findings of their research, and it's going up online, and eventually the journal article form will be published, but right now some of that research is available immediately to their scholarly colleagues. Conference proceedings. So conference proceedings, yes, there's some review in the sense that there's a committee that is usually doing the review of the abstracts and proposals, and occasionally full papers, but usually just the abstracts and proposals. And, often these proceedings are published afterwards. Now, conference proceedings let you see a lot of recent research, but to get the fully developed, peer-reviewed thing, you'd need to go through a journal article publication process. And, it's not something that is always done, or done immediately. Lecture notes from a class, that would be considered gray literature. Newsletters, physician papers arguing for, we should do this, white papers. So, you may get the impression that there are many different types of gray literature, and that would be an absolutely accurate impression. So gray literature is really a catch-all term for published literature that presents things such as information, positions, or recommendations, but doesn't come out of that traditional stream for which, for hundreds of years, books and journals have been emerging. Now, there are many different types, and some of the most common ones are described in the page that we have linked at the top. This is on the official APA style website for APA 7, and I've sorted these alphabetically so you can get a quick idea of some of the major categories. There are even more that can be found in the APA 7th edition publication manual, but if you need a quick check, these will most of the time set you straight. Now, I want to call your attention to some of the instructions on this page. When selecting a category, use the Web Pages and Websites category only when a work does not fit better within another category. For example, a report from a government website would use the Reports category, whereas a page on a government website that is not a report or other work would use the Web Pages and Websites category. Also note that print and electronic references are largely the same. For example, to cite both print books and ebooks, use the Books and Reference Works category, and then choose the appropriate type of work, e-book, and follow the relevant example, like the whole authored book. So, gray literature, although there may be some particulars, often fits in some of these other categories, and so you're looking for the one that has the best fit. And sometimes that best is a matter of opinion between very comparable things, so don't worry about it too much. But if you are unsure, you can always send us an email, and we'll weigh in with some advice. Alright, so let's talk about some key types of gray literature. White papers, green papers, position papers. So let's break these down. A white paper. A white paper is essentially a persuasive essay that uses data and clear argumentation to address a problem, usually where you're proposing a solution or a policy direction. And so it's very much emphasizing practical, actionable content, something that will let or guide people into doing whatever you believe is the right or most effective or ethical thing, rather than a discussion of theory, where you're saying, in a hypothetical situation, white papers are dealing with perceived or anticipated problems. And this is different from marketing material. And one of the things that you do to make a white paper persuasive is that you write it for a specific audience, generally because you want to influence them to promote or encourage a specific outcome. You can think of it in short as, saying, here's an issue, and here are some ways of addressing that issue. I've included a couple examples here, coming from, in this case, the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, which you might guess from the name, they have some interests in not just having research take place, but in improving the quality of healthcare that is received. Also, professional organizations like the American Nurses Association often have white papers that they produce on different topics. And even the Center for Health Design has white papers that they publish. Now, green paper. Green papers are a frequent source of confusion, in part because some sources will disagree on what's white versus green. So, a green paper, you might understand that as a tentative government report on proposed action for public debate. Now, the purpose of a green paper, if the white paper is supposed to encourage a particular course of action, the green paper is kind of like dipping your toe into the water saying, okay, we're considering doing this, but anyone know any reasons why we shouldn't do it? So the green paper is designed to solicit public feedback, public engagement, public debate. And the purpose of a green paper leads towards the final report or recommendation for action. But it's not saying, hey, let's do this yet. It's saying, well, here's what we understand, and here's what it looks like it's suggesting, but not committing to that just yet. And green papers often go through many revisions before the final form, which is, again, a precursor to issuing a white paper or actual policy. And if you'd like to take a look at one of those that's currently active, here's a link to one from our U.S. federal government. Now, a position paper, it's kind of in between, where you're presenting information, certainly. You'd like there to be public discourse on a topic, sometimes branching into people doing or following through on proposed policies. And they're usually giving opinion of some sort. It could be an individual opinion, could be coming from a group entity or a corporate entity, or in our case today, federal government. And they're arguing particular positions or explaining policies or decisions. That one is going to come back. Spoilers. So, position papers don't present original experimental research. but they may repackage and present things that have been previously made available or being made available in a new or different form. So you might understand it as saying, here's what we believe and recommend. And we've included a couple examples here. Now, this particular assignment tie-in that we're using today has a website that you are going to be discussing. The Healthy People 2030 website. Now remember, its predecessor, the Healthy People 2020 website, well, we're 2022, and boy, could we use a little bit more in the realm of healthy people. Alright, so if we look at this website, we have the website as a whole. We have specific areas within it, like the different objectives, which all have their own web page, or web pages, and many other specific pages. And what your reference and citations will look like will depend on what are you referring to, the website as a whole, or to some of these more specific areas, more specific pages with discrete content. And so you want to cite accordingly. What do I mean by that? Well, we're going to come back to that once we've looked at this assignment and see what it actually asks you to do with this website. So we're going to take a look at a assignment from HCAT 241. This is the Survey of Community and Public Health Issues. Specifically, we're looking at the Week 5 Assignment 1, the Population and Community Healthcare Needs Assignment. So if you look at the instructions, it starts with the preamble. Oh, this assignment helps the student link federal initiatives, such as Healthy People 2030, to real-world use in health departments with the goal of improving their community's health and wellness. Okay. It's a pretty good goal. Know what is around you and develop ideas for making it better. Alright, so the instructions. Imagine you are a manager at the local health department in your community. You would like to collaborate with your care team to identify priorities for advancing the overall health and well-being of the patients you serve in the community. Alright. For this assignment, spend some time exploring the Healthy People 2030 website and objectives, and answer the following questions or prompts. Now, before we go any further, let's think back to that question about what part of the website are you using. So if you're describing the website in general, you want to be citing the website as a whole, which, looking at this, alright, you say that Healthy People 2030 website provides 355 core objectives. Okay, now that's something that's listed on the homepage, so you can definitely cite the website as a whole there. But if you're going to a particular page, say we go and look at one of those 355 core objectives, because it has a separate page, because it has particular focus, we'll be citing that. Okay, describe the purpose of the Healthy People Initiative. Got that. How can health department managers use Healthy People as a tool in their community? Now we're getting into something where instead of just describing it in general, we started looking at, okay, what are the specifics? There are a lot of tools listed on that website. Select a minority or disadvantaged group in your community, such as migrants, the ethnic or cultural differences, race, gender, or age group, and describe this population of interest. Okay, so this is probably going to involve an external source, which could actually be a similar type of gray literature, a report produced by the community. And as we have, identify and describe 2 Healthy People 2030 objectives that your practice could use to help improve the health and well-being of the population described in the previous item. Okay, so we have a couple different areas of the website that are going to be used here. So this here, the Healthy People Initiative, as a whole, unless you're quoting directly from a particular page, this kind of thing, when you're describing the purpose of the initiative as a whole, you might find a page that has, about X that you use. But if you're referring to things, what the website is advertising up front, website as a whole, you want to cite the website as a whole. Now, when we get to especially those 2 Healthy People 2030 objectives, that's talking about things that we can tell just looking at the site navigation. There are different pages for those objectives. So when you're talking about them specifically, you want to go to the most detailed and relevant source there. So you'd be citing a specific web page. Now, don't miss this note here. Submit your responses with a reference list, including at least one reference written in AP format. So, the bare minimum here, you'd be citing the Healthy People 2030 website. But since you have those 2 specific objectives, as well as talking about what the website is doing as a whole, you're going to want to have more than one reference there. It may be the same overall resource, but you can be very specific when you're citing an objective page. All right. If we look at the rubric here, we see that this is going through the 4 items in the earlier list, each of those bullets, and then the last item, meeting basic writing standards, that is essentially saying, okay, we have some quality standards here we want you to maintain. Have it be written well, read well, clearly organized, and that's it. All right, well, that's pretty straightforward. Let's look at some basic strategies for outlining. First, make sure that you are answering every prompt directly. The brief response and then expand, so it's not get to the end of the paragraph and see, oh, that's how it connects. Start out with a direct response to each prompt, and then you can develop in 1 or more paragraphs that with additional supporting information and argumentation. Make sure you use the specific language, the word choices of the prompts, and make sure that you consistently refer to things using the same words.